My entire life, I have lived in the shadow of my elder sister, Su Xiao. While she was cherished within the opulent walls of the Lin family mansion in the capital, learning poetry and embroidery, I was bundled off to a rustic manor in the misty hills of Jiangnan, raised by a kind but ailing nanny. Our fates were sealed at birth by our grandfather's unwavering word. I was betrothed to the heir of the mighty Gua family, a lineage forged in the fires of battle. Su Xiao was promised to the scholarly and refined Pei family, whose power lay in ink and intellect. On the eve of our weddings, my mother, her face a mask of belated concern, had a change of heart. "Lian," she said, using the name I was seldom called, "you have known so little comfort. The Pei family is gentle. Their life is one of poetry and peace. It is a better match for you." And so, in a flurry of silks and whispered secrets, we switched. I married into the Pei family, and Su Xiao, with a triumphant gleam in her eyes, went to the Gua estate. But when we returned for our customary 3-day visit to our parents' home, my sister's triumphant gleam had been replaced by a torrent of tears. "It is a disaster, Lian," she sobbed, clinging to our mother's robes. "General Gua, he was grievously wounded on the northern frontier. The physicians say he can no longer function as a man. I cannot be a living widow, a vase wife for the rest of my days. We must switch back. It was your destiny anyway." My heart, which had never truly warmed to the cold, rule-bound halls of the Pei residence, grew cold as winter frost. I looked at my mother, whose face was pale with distress. "My poor Lian," she murmured, turning to me, her voice dripping with a feigned tenderness that turned my stomach. "You always said you would do anything for the family, did you not? If that is so, then switch back with your sister. Besides, no one but I can tell you two apart at a glance." I smiled bitterly to myself. "Mother, do you know that Pei Ziyuan and I have shared a bed? Though I am not sure if it truly counts as sharing a bed. Pei Ziyuan is as elegant as a painting, but in reality, he is all show and no substance. It was a pale, fleeting thing, completely unlike the passionate unions described in the clandestine romance books I devoured." Su Xiao wept on, a picture of exquisite misery. "Sister, you were always meant for the Gua family. It was only because Mother felt guilty for your years of exile that she arranged this swap, wanting you to have the gentler life. But what have I done to deserve such a fate? To be chained to a man who is less than a man?" Hearing this, my mother grabbed my hand, her eyes shimmering with false remorse. "Lian, if you must blame anyone, blame me. It was I who listened to that Taoist priest all those years ago and sent you away. I only wanted to make it up to you, to give you a peaceful life. I never thought it would harm your sister." I looked coldly at the woman who bore me. It was she who worried the Gua family's martial roughness would chafe her precious Su Xiao's delicate sensibilities, which is why she made me take the Pei family's stifling propriety. They were my blood, my kin, so why did I not feel a single thread of their love? Let it be, I thought, the last of my hope withering. This bond is too shallow. I should never have hoped for more. "This is the last time," I said, my voice unervingly steady. "From now on, our mother-daughter bond is severed. I will not agree to anything you ask of me ever again." After a perfunctory farewell to my father, who remained silent throughout the drama, I changed from the Pei family's delicate silks into the more robust, darker-hued robes of the Gua household. I followed General Gua Zhenting out of the Lin mansion, casting a glance back at Pei Ziyuan and Su Xiao. As I suspected, Pei Ziyuan, a man who saw only the surface of things, merely recognized the robes, completely oblivious that the woman standing beside him was now his wife. Good. That saves me from having to endure his tedious, ineffectual attempts at marital duty. Suddenly, my foot caught on an uneven paving stone, my ankle twisting sharply. I braced for a fall. "Be careful, my lady. Do not misstep." A strong arm encircled my waist, and I was caught off guard, tumbling into a chest as solid as an ironwood wall. The impact made my nose ache, and tears sprang to my eyes. Gods, this man is built like a fortress. "You..." I looked up, about to complain, and met his gaze. His face, resolute and weathered by sun and campaign, was filled with chagrin. Did I bump into you too hard? My apologies. I am all muscle. Too solid. I blinked. What kind of outrageous talk is this? Is he making a veiled comment about Pei Ziyuan? What is the use of hard muscles? What should be hard isn't. My mind was in turmoil, yet I forced a calm, faint smile onto my lips. Those who practice martial arts naturally have a different physique from ordinary scholars, I replied demurely. Now, could you please move your hand from my waist? Does he not realize how scorching his palm is? My back feels like it's on fire. As long as you do not mind my coarseness, my lady. How could I? I said, discreetly prying his large hand from my waist and steering him toward the waiting carriage. You are so heroic and extraordinary. Guo Zhenting raised a brow slightly, a smile playing on his lips. Very manly, he added, a hint of amusement in his deep voice. I nearly choked. This general is far from the dull, broken man my sister described. The Lin and Guo residences were located in the east and west of the city respectively. The carriage swayed rhythmically, and I lifted the curtain to look outside at the bustling streets I was leaving behind. I did not notice at all that Guo Zhenting was watching me with great interest. Is my lady reluctant to leave her parents' home? He asked, his voice cutting through the silence. In a few days, I will accompany you back for a visit. I replied instinctively, the bitterness slipping out before I could stop it. We were never close anyway, so what is the point? Oh no. I forced my mouth shut, my mind racing. I turned to him stiffly, letting my face fall into an imitation of Su Xiu's sorrowful persona. Originally, my mother was thinking of me as well, and asked me to return in a few days. I was just worried about how to bring it up to my husband. I never knew my husband could be so considerate. I finished by gazing at him with what I hoped was deep affection. His eyes held an ambiguous, flickering light that made my heart flutter with unease. Could he have noticed the swap? Impossible. Su Xiu said that ever since the red veil was lifted, his face had been cold and stern. That first night, he had slept in the study. The next day, she learned of his injury. It wasn't until today's homecoming that he had even come to the Lin residence. They had barely exchanged more than a few words. Stay calm. Keep your composure. I must be more considerate, since my wife has married me, Guo Zhenting said, his dark eyes deep and his smile seeming sincere. This expression was different from the detached politeness he had shown Su Xiu during the meal. Yet, I couldn't quite pinpoint what was different. After all, everything I knew about him was second-hand gossip. We arrived at the Guo residence. I was worried I wasn't familiar with the layout of the mansion and might give myself away. To my surprise, Zhenting took the initiative to escort me personally to the main bedchamber in the backyard. I felt as if a great burden had been lifted. Please rest here, my lady. I have some official matters to attend to in the study and will return shortly. I couldn't have been more pleased. Your official duties are more important. It is best you continue resting in the study. They say military men are sharp judges of character. I must be careful. My personal maid, Xiar, who had been with me in Jiangnan, was the only one I trusted. Miss, she whispered once we were alone, why do I feel that Lord Guo is not at all like how the eldest young lady described him? Do you feel it too? I asked, unclasping my heavy headdress. Xiar nodded vigorously. The young lady said Master Guo was dull and cold by nature, but along the way, I found him quite considerate and gentle. A chill ran down my spine. Xiar, do I look like Su Xiu? You two look almost identical, but the eldest young lady is a delicate orchid, raised in a greenhouse. You, miss, are a wild peach blossom, just as beautiful, but stronger. I smiled and tapped her lightly. You are the only one who knows how to talk. My mother also claimed that aside from her, no one could tell us apart at a glance. Not even my father could. After I finished bathing, Zhenting still had not returned. Xiar and I immediately went through Su Xiu's dowry list. It was exactly twice as much as my own. TSK. With so much silver, no need to serve difficult in-laws, and not even having to perform marital duties, such a terrible fate. And Su Xiu cried, made a scene, and threatened suicide to switch with me. It seems she has been so coddled. All she thinks about are romantic fantasies. For me, love is a bonus. If not, I will focus on living well. Nothing is more reliable than money in hand. Ciar, how did the script I wrote this time sell? Not very well, she admitted. The bookstore owner said that the new book from the shop next door, The General's Wild Rose, is selling like hotcakes. Perhaps you should stop writing about delicate scholars and ethereal beauties and try something like this. She handed me a storybook, her face flushed. Miss, please take a look for reference. The book was exceptionally captivating, with vivid illustrations and a thrilling plot. It made my heart race, and I was just getting to the most exciting part when the door opened and Guozhenting returned. Feeling as guilty as a thief, I stuffed the book under the pillows and stood up, smiling. Have you finished handling your official duties? He nodded and began to undress. What is happening? Wife, please help me prepare my night clothes. The corner of my mouth twitched. Is he planning to sleep here?
No.
Didn't Su Xiao say he always sleeps in the study? After freezing for a moment, I nodded with a bright smile. All right. I turned and my face immediately fell. While preparing his sleepwear, I deliberately asked with feigned shyness, Husband, will you be staying with me tonight? Yes. His voice sounded right behind me, making me jump. The past few days have been busy with official duties, and I have neglected you. Please do not blame me, my dear. I froze, clutching the clothes tightly. How am I supposed to respond to that? Isn't he just a military man? Why does it sound like he has a whole set of prepared lines? I'm overwhelmed. Turning around, I meant to say, I do not blame you, but instead, I bumped squarely into his bare chest. Heavens! He isn't wearing a shirt. His solid, bronzed muscles, clearly defined and exuding raw strength, felt like heated stone against me. That brief contact, coupled with the story from the book and the portrait of the male lead, made my cheeks burn. But the thought of such a magnificent man being physically injured made me sigh inwardly. Heaven is so unfair. I understand, husband, I said, handing him the clothes, a genuine pang of sympathy for him touching my heart. Since we were bound together, as long as he was willing to live a good life, I would be a considerate and virtuous wife. My wife, you are so good. Guozhenting took the clothes, gave me a deep look, and turned toward the bathing room. I gazed at his broad, well-defined back, marred by scars both large and small. They were not unsightly. They gave him a rugged, weathered, wild beauty. Realizing my wayward thoughts, I slapped my own cheek. Lin Lian, you just read about a rough man's tender feelings. How could you immediately put yourself in that situation? Guozhenting is not capable. He is not capable. But his mighty and robust physique screamed otherwise. Since Ciar said romance novels featuring rugged men were selling well, I decided I would use Guozhenting as the prototype for my next story. Taking advantage of his bath, I retrieved the novel and flipped to the exciting part. The next moment I closed it, my face burning. Who wrote this? How could the words be so explicit? 8-pack abs? A narrow waist like a wolf's? One night, 7 times? So embarrassing, but it's actually quite compelling. Zhenting took a long time in the bath. He didn't emerge until I was already drowsy. Husband, put out the candle. It's too bright. I'm not used to it. I had grown up on the estate, and the nanny who raised me was frugal, seldom lighting candles at night to save for my dowry. She fell ill and passed before she could see me married, and so I became accustomed to the dark. All right, Zhenting responded. Soon, the room was plunged into darkness. In the middle of the night, I felt myself being pulled into a broad, sturdy embrace. At first it was cool. After a while, it was unbearably hot. I pushed away in disgust, shifting further inside. So hot. Don't get so close. Having escaped the heat source, I slept dreamlessly until morning. When I woke, the sky was bright. My nightgown was askew, the straps of my undergarment loose. My mind was hazy. The sound of splashing water came from the washroom, and then Guozhenting walked out, a cloth towel wrapped around his waist. Morning light streamed in, illuminating the room. Water droplets traced paths down his robust body, a blatant, magnificent temptation. I swallowed hard, my mouth terribly dry. This early in the morning, a visual assault. Damn it, I muttered under my breath. The Minister of War is hosting a banquet today. I will come to pick you up after my shift this afternoon. I watched, mesmerized, as his bronze-toned body was covered layer by layer with clothing. Words from the novel surfaced in my mind. 8-pack abs, a narrow waist like a wolf's, incredibly capable. I had completely forgotten my own state of disarray. Jinting finished dressing and turned. My lady, do you find my body too warm? He suddenly paused, his gaze deepening, his throat moving slightly. Your sash has come undone. I looked down. A vast expanse of snow-white skin met my eyes. My face flushed bright red. I immediately gathered my clothes and pulled the bedding up. Please forgive my impropriety. It is my fault for wanting to be close to you, but ending up making you feel hot, he said.
Me?
What the hell? Want to be close? Get intimate? Doesn't he know his own situation? Isn't this just embarrassing for him? I am quite sensitive to heat, and I am not used to sharing a bed, I said, trying to cover for him kindly. But I noticed Jinting's expression grow gloomy and despondent. You must be upset with me for neglecting you on our wedding night, which is why you do not like me. The tall, burly man lowered his eyes, a picture of melancholy and guilt. I was baffled. It's not that I blame him, but I can't say I don't. It was Su Xiao who was neglected, not me. He already shared a bed with me last night. If anything, I was the one who pushed him away. Alas, being a wife is truly difficult. I do not dislike you, I assured him. You are my husband. Later, I will have the servants change to a thinner quilt, so I won't push you away. Jinting smiled. Thank you for your understanding. When Xiar entered, my mind was still dazed. I couldn't help but feel something was off. Miss, young Master Gua said the steward will come later to hand over the household tally and keys. From now on, you have the final say in the Gua household. You are the true mistress. I was overwhelmed by the favor. After a moment, I smiled. Heaven has finally favored me. With the authority to manage the estate in my hands, my days will surely be better than those in the countryside. In the afternoon, Jinting returned to take me to the banquet. I had just finished with the steward. The Gua family had a simple structure. Jinting's elder brothers had fallen in battle years ago, and he was the child of his parents' later years. They had since passed away. After becoming a general, he established his own residence. The servants were all bought from the market. Marrying him was truly an excellent match. No wonder my mother was biased. Fortunately, he had a hidden ailment, which was why this marriage fell to me. I would be a gentle, considerate wife. I would not mind his condition. The minister's banquet was for his wife's birthday. Both military and civil officials were invited. When I encountered Su Xiao and Pei Ziyuan, I felt calm. Sister, brother-in-law. Jinting followed my lead. Sister-in-law, brother-in-law. Pei Ziyuan was as refined as ever, but his gaze towards Su Xiao was fervent. It seems they were quite compatible. So, was the problem with me? Su Xiao, her face delicate as a peach blossom, affectedly took my hand. It is wonderful to see you again, sister. We barely spoke yesterday. Come, let us go to the women's quarters. Suddenly, Jinting grabbed the corner of my sleeve, his gaze intense. My lady, I will come to fetch you later. If you are bored, wait for me in the carriage after the banquet. Do not wander off. Looking into his dark, bright, yet uneasy eyes, my heart tightened. What is he doing? As if I could run away. Yes, I know. I reached out and gently patted his hand, smiling and nodding. Seeing this, Su Xiao's expression changed dramatically. I had no idea you and my sister were so close. My parents and I were worried General Gua might be cold and not treat my sister well. It seems we were overly concerned. Jinting cast a cold glance at her. Sister-in-law, Lian is my wife. I, Gua Jinting, treasure and respect her. I may be cold to others, but never to her. Su Xiu's face grew even more unpleasant. I felt immensely pleased. But is this the rough soldier from the military camp? His words are so smooth. In a quiet corner, my sister sneered. You and General Gui get along quite well, don't you? Not bad, I suppose, I smiled. Su Xiu immediately blushed with false shyness. My husband said your wedding night with him was uneventful. But last night, he and I had no trouble at all. You and he never actually. Could it be that you have some health issues? Seeing her delight in my misfortune, I replied with self-pity. Perhaps. I grew up on an estate, living alongside servants. My comforts could never compare to yours. Maybe it is malnutrition. My body hasn't fully developed. Su Xiu felt a pang of guilt, looking around nervously. You are doing this on purpose. If outsiders heard the second Lin daughter grew up on a farmstead, imagine the scandal. I curled my lips. Dare to act, but not to own up. How hypocritical. Lin Lian, she hissed. Mother injured her body giving birth to you, which is why she believed the Taoist. How can you, as her daughter, speak of her so? Watching her face, so similar to mine, contort in hypocrisy, I felt only annoyance. She favors you to the core, so of course you defend her. I severed our bond yesterday, and it was for your sake. What does that have to do with me? She retorted, guilty. I pushed her hand away, then turned back. Congratulations on becoming the Pei family's daughter-in-law. You'd better get pregnant quickly. Otherwise, when your husband goes for the imperial exams and passes, your inner chambers might get quite lively. Her face darkened. Though I felt a petty victory, bitterness remained. My own family does not want me to have a good life. At the banquet, I was in a foul mood and drank 2 cups of wine. By the time I returned to the carriage, I was dizzy, my stomach burning. Xiao smelled the alcohol. Miss, why are you drinking? You have a cold stomach. How can you handle it? Did Su Xiu provoke you? I'll go catch bugs to scare her. I grabbed her. Do not be impulsive. I am not that bothered by them anymore. The drink is partly their fault and partly my own. I sighed. Xiao, is there anything wrong with my body? What? Apart from your cold stomach, you are quite healthy. I patted my burning cheeks, embarrassed. I mean the women's aspect. I mentioned that Su Xiu and Pei Ziyuan had consummated their marriage. Do you think there might be something wrong with me? Xiao frowned. Miss, even if there is nothing wrong with you, young Master Guo wouldn't be able to enjoy it anyway. The corner of my mouth twitched. True, but I need to be sure. In a few days, let's go to the outskirts and have Granny take a look. When Jinting returned to the carriage, I was drowsy. Why is your face so red? I had a couple of drinks. He looked surprised, then effortlessly scooped me into his arms, sitting me on his lap. His brows were sharp, his eyes bright, his gaze thick with tenderness. Does your head hurt? Just dizzy. His stern face broke into a gentle smile. Once we are home and you have some sobering soup, you will feel better. His large, calloused hand gently caressed my cheek, as if tracing a treasure. It made my heart flutter. My lady, how can you be so beautiful? Thump, my heart skipped a beat. In his gaze, I saw desire. The look from the storybook, the look a warrior gives his wife. Burning. Intense. This is a blatant seduction. Knowing he can't perform, how can he stir my heart like this? I closed my eyes and buried my face in his chest. Husband, I am dizzy. I shall rest a while. Out of sight, out of mind. Jinting chuckled, a low, helpless sound. It is fine as long as it is her, he murmured, too softly for me to hear. For several days, we shared a room. I began to suspect he was subtly, deliberately seducing me. Wife, please prepare my sleepwear. I am going to bathe. And then he would emerge, damp and glorious, drying himself before me, utterly unself-conscious. It was affecting me, especially after reading the General's Wild Rose. The early ambiguity, the later steam, the shameless sweetness. My resolve wavered. Being a chaste widow is not easy. Guo Jinting is perfect in every way but one. Has he seen a doctor? If only he could be cured. I gazed at the canopy and sighed. Jinting emerged from his bath. Does my lady have something on her mind? Tomorrow, I need to go out. I will not be back until evening. He paused. A flicker of panic flashed in his dark eyes. Where? To the Lin family's countryside estate. He relaxed. I will take you. No need that I can manage. Thud. My heart felt struck. The man had, at some point, removed his towel. He stood sideways, brazenly naked, leisurely dressing. The rumored injured area flashed before my eyes, vivid and decidedly uninjured. I was shocked and mortified, turning away, my face flaming. Was he truly injured, or was it a pretense? I didn't sleep well. In my drowsiness, I felt something hard and hot against my back. I tossed restlessly. I heard a muffled groan. I opened my eyes to see Jinting get up and walk to the washroom. The room was quiet. I strained to hear, muffled, low, husky sounds. Thanks to the book, I understood. My face burned. So his body is perfectly fine. Then the one with the problem is me. Early the next morning, Jinting left for the training grounds. The boarder was restless, he said. Precautions were needed. After breakfast, Xiao'er and I went to the estate to see Granny One. When she heard my purpose, the osmanthus wine I brought nearly made her choke. After coughing, she spoke with over 30 years of experience. Your body is unique. It is what we call a treasured vessel. What does that mean? She smiled meaningfully, whispering in my ear. My face flushed bright red. This. So that night with Pei Ziwan failed not because of me, but because he was all show and no substance, utterly incapable of rousing my treasured vessel. And Guo Jinting? He had no problems. Yet he never pressed for marital duties. Why? By the time we returned, it was dark. Jinting sent word he would be late. After dinner, I reviewed accounts and began writing my story. My days with Jinting had provided perfect material. Strong, robust, tender-hearted. He was the ideal male lead. If we could talk tonight, perhaps we could begin our own beautiful story. But he never returned. When I woke, the sky was bright. Xiao'er informed me, Madam, the steward came. There is urgent military news. The Lord is to lead the army into battle. The news spread quickly. I was restless, wanting to find him, but knew I couldn't. I could only wait. On the third day, at lamplighting time, he returned. I dropped my brush, my eyes stinging, and threw myself into his arms. You're back. He was overwhelmed by the gesture, then smiled contentedly. My wife is finally willing to get close to me. I angrily pounded his chest. It's not that I don't want to be close. I was doing it for your sake. He grabbed my hand, kissing it tenderly. For my sake. I looked up, my gaze reproachful and coquettish. Did you know about the marriage swap? Jinting looked at me, his gaze deep and unfathomable, and nodded. So you deliberately revealed your injury, to make Su Xiao switch back. You are my betrothed, the woman I want. Lin Lian, I want only you. His sincere confession shattered the last of my defenses. At 18, this was the first time someone had been so resolutely certain about me. I cried, touched by his loyalty, saddened by my family's betrayal. I had almost lost him. Guo Jinting, I whispered, my voice thick with tears. Shall we consummate our marriage tonight? Let me become your true wife. I wrapped my arms around him, stood on my toes, and took the initiative to kiss him. He was stunned, then turned my gentleness into his own fierce possession. He grabbed my waist and kissed me with a hunger that stole my breath. My lady finally dares to look directly at my body, he murmured against my lips. It seems my efforts have not been in vain. I was kissed into a daze. The red candle burned for half the night. The general, usually so disciplined, unleashed a torrent of crude, wild words that made me blush. A subtle fragrance filled the room, an intoxicating springtime allure. This Guo Jinting, with his extraordinary natural talent, truly did a number on my poor waist. When the clouds dispersed and the rain ceased, I was exhausted. Drowsily, I felt him kiss my forehead. "Lienor," he whispered, "wait for me to return." The battles raged for 3 months. A letter from home was worth 10,000 in gold. It had been 3 months since his last letter. It was a letter of safety and reassurance. "My beloved Lienor, the war goes well. The enemy retreats. I will soon return in triumph to reunite with you." Those few sentences brought tears. Lienor was the name my nanny called me. No one else did. Now, besides Xiar, only Guozhenting truly cared for me. I, who never cared for gods or Buddhas, now went to the temple on the 1st and 15th of every month, praying only for his safe return. My storybook, The Beauty's Pillow, sold mediocrely due to the war. After the autumn exams, Pei Ziyuan passed as a jinsher. Su Xiao held a banquet. I didn't want to go, but familial duty called. As expected, she wanted to show off. "Thank you for your reminder, sister. I am pregnant." I glanced at her slightly rounded abdomen. "Congratulations." Seeing my lack of reaction, she sneered. "Guozhenting is on a battlefield where death is certain. He has health issues. Have you considered divorce? I can introduce you to Ziyuan's classmate. His ranking is lower, but he is healthy. Enduring widowhood for a year or 2 is bearable. But for decades, you need a child." I just smiled. "Thank you for your kindness. Being mistress of the Guo family is quite good. The household is simple. As for children, they will come. When Jinting returns, I will have him see a doctor. Perhaps he can be cured." I didn't tell her he already knew. I didn't want to tell her he was more capable than any frail scholar. Winter arrived. Jinting's letter stopped. It grew cold, and it snowed. With time, I wrote another storybook, bolder in its descriptions, adding patriotic sentiments and war scenes. It sold well. Every time I read it, I thought of Jinting, blushing, remembering our wedding night, sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce, like floating on a cloud, then on a wave's crest. Granny once said my body was special, not for an ordinary man. If a man could handle it, we would both have found a treasure. "Guozhenting," I whispered to the falling snow, "I miss you. You must return safely." As the year ended, news of a great victory arrived. Jinting returned on the 5th day of the new year. In this battle, he had made great contributions, was promoted to great general, and I became the general's wife. By the time the lanterns were lit, he returned from the camp. He was darker, thinner, more weathered. "Lienor, I'm back." He pulled me into his embrace. I held him tightly. Did you miss me?" I looked up, my eyes red, and nodded. "Yes." His throat bobbed, his gaze burning. "Darling, help me undress. I need a bath. The smell is strong." The bathroom was steamy. Jinting sat in the tub, his chest and back a map of scars. I held a cloth, washing him gently, my heart aching. So many wounds. It must have been painful. "Heartache. A kiss from my lady will make it better," he joked. "Really?" My heart ached with pity. Without hesitation, I kissed a newly healed scar on his shoulder. His body tensed. His eyes trembled. The submerged part of him immediately stood majestic and proud. "Darling, you're going to be the death of me." A splash of water. He turned, knelt, cupped the back of my head, and kissed me fervently. After a year apart, it was like dry wood meeting a fierce fire. Uncontrollable. For 3 days, I scarcely left the bed. He was insatiable, pulling me back into his world of passion. On the 4th morning, he was in high spirits again. "Jinting," I finally protested. "If you keep this up, I'm afraid my life will be cut short." He looked utterly satisfied, cupping my face for a kiss. "How could I bear to take your life? It is you who would take mine." His tone was tender, his gaze captivating. Don't look at me with those dazed eyes. I can't control myself. I was speechless. Endless. It's truly endless. Later, I bore a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. Su Xiao had twin daughters in her second pregnancy. To secure her position, she schemed again. Do you want to swap? We can arrange a child for you. What a pipe dream, Su Xiao. Back when we switched, Guo Jinting knew immediately it wasn't me. He devised the plan to make you believe he was injured so you would switch back. He wants me, Lin Lian. That year, at our coming-of-age ceremony at the Lin residence, he tore his clothes picking plums. I was the one who mended them for him. The one he has always loved is me. Su Xiao was deeply shaken and finally quieted. And I, together with Guo Jinting, lived the real-life version of the general's wild rose, a life of blissful, shameless indulgence. My lady, the night is deep. It's time to extinguish the lights and rest. Hearing this, my waist ached, my legs weakened. Jinting, can't you take a day off? Absolutely not. I've been on the battlefield so long. I have to make up for all I've missed. He gripped my waist, making me straddle his lap, skillfully igniting desire. The stories you write are captivating. The Beauty's Pillow. My dear, it seems you are quite satisfied with me. Long-lasting, 8-pack abs, a narrow waist like a wolf's. All night, he paused, his rough hands teasing. If it weren't for the fact that my lady can't handle it, I could go 7 times a night. Shall we try tonight? Not good. Not speaking means you're willing. Woo. He sealed my lips with a kiss. How could I speak? The shameless, blissful life he wanted, he gave to me. The one who wanted it? Clearly it was him.